Hi there. This video will describe how to create a physics object-driven emitter. I'm going to start by showing what the output is, and then we can go through how to create it. So this is in Unity, and if I hit play, and I come over here, see if I can jump up and see it. I have an emitter up here, or a blank empty object that is just going to be emitting these little white balls, and they have physics applied to them. So they're going to bounce around, and I can interact with the little square player character. It's going to consistently emit a ball ever so often, however long I determine to wait until it emits. So let's go create this from scratch. So I already have one in here, so I'm going to turn off my emitter. And I already have a prefab in here, so we're going to create these from scratch. So first off, we're going to do is create a 2D object, a sprite, and a circle. It can be whatever you want to. I'm going to reset the transforms over here on the right. I'm going to put a sorting layer on here. I already have a sorting layer. Let's just add another one just for the sake of it. New sorting layer. And let's hit the plus symbol. And we'll say physics ball. And I'm going to put that in front of my other sorting layers. So let's go back to my circle and let's rename our circle. Physics ball circle. There we go. And let's add that sorting layer. Physics ball to that. So that should make it so we can see that in front of everything else. I'm going to scale it down to 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. So it's smaller. You can make whatever size you want to. You can change the color. Alright, so I need a couple of things on here. I need a rigid body. So we're going to do a rigid body 2D. I'm going to make sure physics is simulated. And I can put my mass down to smaller. So smaller balls. Let's put our mass down to 0.1. Let's try that so far. And I'm going to change my collision detection to continuous. Alright, so the other thing we need is a circle collider. So let's go ahead and add a circle collider. Circle collider 2D. And that's it. So the other thing we need is for the ability to be able to bounce. So if I just take this object and hit play, it will fall, but it's not going to have a lot of options for friction and bounciness to it. So it'll fall down, and I can move around. It'll continue to fall. I can push it around, but it doesn't have a lot of variety to it. So in that regard, for the rigid body, we're going to add a physics material. We need to create the physics material first. So if I go to Assets, Create, 2D, and Physics Material 2D. This is a 2D game, so we're going to build a Physics Material 2D. It puts it in whatever folder you have, so that's fine that it puts it in my prefabs folder. Let's say Ball Physics Mat 2D. There you go, that's good. Ball Physics Mat 2D. And we have options. Friction is how much delay or drag an object's going to have as it hits another object. So let's put that down so it'll bounce more. And then bounciness, we're going to put that up high, something like 0.9. I mean, it's going to bounce more and have less friction. So if I hit play now, it should bounce a lot more. Not have not as much friction. There you go. Oh, well, we haven't added it yet, so let's make sure we added it. So let's go back to our physics ball circle. We've created it, but we haven't added that. So let's go to the rigid body, 2D, and material. We're going to click the little drop down, and I'm actually going to make sure I have another one very similar, so I'm going to make sure I drag this one in there. So for my prefabs, I'm going to drag it in there. Ball Physics Mat 2D. So you need to make sure you have the right one in there. And then now let's play. Now we should see it bounce a lot more. There you go. So it's bouncing a lot more than what it was before. I can hit it. It'll kind of bounce around the scene. Alright, so you can apply this option to any kind of object that you want to add physics to. We can take this a step further and automatically create or emit a ball ever so often. So that's the next thing we're going to do. I'm going to take my physics ball circle and drag this into my prefabs folder. That's going to create a prefab of this object, and I can reference that in a script. So now I don't need the actual ball in the hierarchy, so let's delete that out. And I'm going to reference this in a script that is going to be emitting this from a particular point. So next thing we need is an empty game object. So we're going to go to the plus symbol in the hierarchy and choose create empty. And we're going to call this one ball emitter. I already have one called ball emitter. Let's just call this one physics ball. Physics ball emitter. There you go. All right, I'm going to reset. And I'm just going to move this up. So it's going to emit it above the player. Let's add a visual icon to this. So this button right here is an icon. And I'm going to add one so I can see the name of it, physics ball emitter. So this is going to be the location of where it is going to emit that ball ever so often. I have a scripts folder. I'm going to come in here and create a new script. And we're going to call this a C# script. And we're going to label this physics ball emitter script. And let it process. All right. Finishing up here. All right, so I finished. So if I double click that, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code here. And we're going to add the script to the ball emitter object. And then it's going to reference that physics ball prefab that we just created. So we need a couple of variables. Return down in the class. We need one variable. It's going to be a private float. We're going to call this one base spawn time. And then I need two public ones. So public float ball spawn time. We'll come back and use these in a minute. And then we need a reference to our prefab. So public game object ball prefab. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to need void start, but on void update, every frame I want to determine how many balls it's going to emit or produce from this location. So we're going to create our function in a minute, but here is the function that we're going to use in void update. So we're going to say if open parentheses should spawn, and then open and close another set of parentheses and finish up the first set of parentheses. And return down and open up curly brackets. So if I should be able to spawn, within the curly brackets I'm going to have another function that's just going to be called spawn. So we're going to go create these two functions here in a second. So that's what this action is going to happen. Now let's go create this function. So after void update, we're going to create a private void called spawn. Open and close parentheses. We're going to return down and open and close curly brackets. And this is going to be the ability to spawn that ball prefab at this location. So how this is going to be typed out is a vector3. A new variable called the type is vector3. And it's going to be called random position, so random POS. And that's going to equal to a new vector3. And we can do 0, 0F, 0F, 0F. And that'll put it spawn every new ball in the same exact center of our ball prefab. We can add a little bit of randomness to this though. Put a semicolon at the end. So we can use the random function here to randomly move it horizontally a little bit. So every time it produces a ball, it's going to move it slightly to the left or slightly to the right. So within the first 0, which is the X position, the horizontal position, we're going to do random dot range and open up another set of parentheses. And then we'll do negative 0.2F, comma, 0.2F. So that'll just slightly move the ball to the left or to the right a little bit compared to this location of the ball prefab or the ball emitter position. So this first line is a random position change of where to emit it. The second line, when you're going to grab a reference to this base spawn time that we created up here, this float, and we're going to do base spawn time equals time dot time plus the ball spawn time. Ball spawn time. Okay. So the ball spawn time is going to be what we're going to determine in Unity as far as how often to emit a ball. And then we want to do whatever the time is at the current time, plus that is going to be our reference that we're going to privately call base spawn time. Okay. So Underneath that, then we're going to use the instantiate function. Instantiate, which this is how we can use a prefab and be able to produce more than one. So instantiate and open up parentheses. And the first thing we need is our prefab reference, a prefab, ball prefab. And then we need to tell it where to add this. So we're going to do transform.position. If we want it to be the exact position, then we just leave it like that. But since we added this random position that's going to randomly move it horizontally, let's do transform position plus random position. There you go. So that'll add that random horizontal motion to it. And then comma, transform dot rotation. Okay? Because we need to determine where to place it in a position and also rotation. So that's our spawn function, that if we can spawn, which we're about to build that one, then spawn a ball determined by our ball spawn time. So underneath that spawn function, we're going to add another one, private, and this is going to be a Boolean, true, false, should spawn. And return down and open up our curly brackets. And this is going to be a check to see what time it is. So return time.time. And we're going to check to see if that is greater than or equal to this base spawn time that we created in the spawn ability. So base spawn time, semicolon. All right. So that's our script. In the void update, can I spawn according to the previous time and the previous base spawn time? And if so, then run the spawn function, which will determine a random position horizontally on the x-axis between negative 0.2 and 0.2, and then build a ball, the physics ball, at that position. And then physics is going to hold it and it's going to drop it down. So let's save that and go back into Unity and let Unity process this. And then we're going to add that script to our physics ball emitter object and then drag our reference to our prefabs. Let's go ahead and do that. So physics ball emitter, there it is. And I need to find my script and drag my script as a component to the physics ball emitter object. And I need to change the ball spawn time, which is how often it's going to produce a ball. Let's just do 1 for right now, so every second. And then I need a ball prefab. So let's go to our prefabs folder and drag our prefab of our ball, physics ball, into the ball prefab of the script. All right, let's save. And let's play. So let's see if that worked. All right, so after every second, a ball is going to be produced and gravity is going to take a hold of it. And now I can interact with the ball. If I wanted to pause or stop playing and increase or decrease the time, so every 0.25 seconds. Now play. Now more balls are going to be created more often. There we go. So I can increase or decrease that ball speed time or ball spawn time to create more or less physics balls that are created from this emitter standpoint. And if you look at it, you can see the ball is emitted on a random position horizontally. So it's not directly in the center every time. Some of them are a little more to the left, a little more to the right, or some of them are in the middle. So it's a quick and easy way to build an emitter that is a physics-driven ball that spawned every 0.25 seconds or however many you want there. And that's a fun kind of interactive physics-based game. All right, that'll wrap up this video on ball or physics and emitting a ball physics object.